This shrimp can cause explosions.
My main goal is to blow up.
Introducing the mantis shrimp, native to the West Indo-Pacific Ocean and possibly the coolest crustacean under the sea, because this fluorescent armored sausage is actually a voracious, bloodthirsty predator rocking enough surveillance equipment to scare the CIA with a weapon powerful enough to surpass Metal Gear. See, the mantis shrimp is a highly effective predator, and they find and track their prey with easily the most advanced set of eyes on the fucking planet. First off, each of these eye stalks can rotate independently like a periscope, giving them a full 360 degrees of vision. However, more importantly, they can see colours we can't. You see, the mantis shrimp's eyes contain a full 15 photoreceptor cones compared to our 3. Which is a fancy way of saying they can see in 16K HDR with ray tracing enabled at 500 render distance.
Oh my PC.
Now, not only is the visual clarity unmatched, they can also see into the infrared and ultraviolet light spectrums. And despite all of this, they still can't find who asked. What they can, however, find is their next meal. The mantis shrimp subsists on a diet of fish, worms, squidward, and, most importantly, Mr. Crabs. Now, crabs famously exist inside of a defensive shell. So, how does this polite little gentleman break into the shell? Simple. He throws hands. That's right, weighing in at only 90 grams and 38 centimeters in length, the mantis shrimp has a punch that produces 15,000 newtons of force. That is 176 newtons per gram. So if a human was capable of that same kind of force, a right hook from someone who weighs 80 kilo would be like getting hit in the face with 6 sticks of dynamite. Now, to produce that force, its claw needs to be moving at 83 kilometers an hour, which is so fast it creates a vacuum in the water called a cavitation bubble, which then immediately collapses at such a speed it creates a mini explosion that flashbangs the target and reaches a temperature hotter than the surface of the sun. Mr. Krabs is getting f***ing disintegrated.
Money, money, money.
This bear was actually a soldier. But how? You see, it was 1942, and the 22nd Polish Artillery Company were passing through the mountains of Iran, on their way to the front lines to fight the Nazis. While passing through a town on their way, they were stopped by a young Iranian shepherd, looking to trade with them for rations and a Swiss Army knife. When the Poles asked what he had to offer in return, the young shepherd produced a burlap sack containing an orphaned Syrian brown bear cub. You see, this bear's mother was shot by hunters, which is how he ended up in a low-tech Pokeball being offered as a trade deal. The Polish looked at the bear and, clearly seeing the potential for insane dad lore, said,
Damn good deal.
And in the most worthwhile trade deal in history, parted ways with their supplies in exchange for a f***ing Pokemon, adopting him into their ranks and naming him Voytech. And the 22nd immediately set about raising this little man as a proper bear and soldier.
Maggots!
As a baby, they would feed him condensed milk out of an empty vodka bottle, as well as feeding him on the cartoon bear diet consisting of fruit, honey, and marmalade. They also appointed a soldier as his caretaker, who wasted no time in showing Voytech how to fit in with the rest of the army, teaching Yogi's little cousin to wave, salute, and even march. While not undergoing rigorous military training, Voytech would hang out with the soldiers. He drank coffee with them in the morning, trained with them in the day, and when they all got shit-faced in the evening, he would wrestle with them. Do you know how much a brown bear has to love you to wrestle you? On top of double rations, they would also feed Voytech treats in the form of beer and cigarettes. They let the bear have smoko. Eventually, Army High Command heard about this and were having absolutely none of it. You see, pets were not allowed in the army, which meant Voytech had to go. Or did he? Because the 22nd Artillery Company officially enlisted him.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part. I'm doing my part.
Voytech was given a serial number and granted the rank of private, so when confronted about the very conspicuous bear in their ranks, they simply went, "That's not a bear, that's Private Voytech." And Voytech took his new role very seriously, as during the Battle of Monte Cassino in 1944, Voytech began using his bulk to transport artillery shells and ammo to soldiers engaged in combat. They had a fucking resupply bear. For his bravery, he was promoted to the rank of corporal, and the 22nd changed their insignia to a bear carrying an artillery shell. This absolute unit smoked, drank, and dropped artillery on the Nazis. Based. Komodo dragons are horror villains. I mean, seriously, this industrial-sized lizard is easily one of the biggest assholes in the animal kingdom when it comes to hunting methods, packing a PhD in suffering and a double degree in biological warfare purely because they cannot be expending effort to hunt. You see, Godzilla's little cousin here is the largest lizard in the world, weighing up to 166 kilos and being a full 3.13 meters in length, which means, for the short kings in my audience, if you're brave enough, bang a motor transport right there. Now, being the reptile equivalent of a Cadillac Escalade means that the Komodo dragon needs to consume a lot of calories to keep that bulk going. However, rather than using that bulk to proactively chase down and body slam its prey, they can take down prey 3 times their size, because as if being a reptilian tank was not enough, they are also venomous. And this isn't just your run-of-the-mill snake venom that, you know, gives you a nice quick 15-minute death. No. A Komodo hunt starts with it running up to its prey and giving it a nice big chomp on the leg, injecting it with hemorrhagic venom. After biting, the Komodo dragon off and just sits there watching. The confused and bewildered animal runs off into the forest, leaking blood, allowing that Komodo dragon to track it like a DoorDash order. A week goes by, and that bite wound isn't closing because hemorrhagic venom prevents blood clots. So, the animal is still slowly bleeding out, and the Komodo is still watching. More time passes. That bite wound gets infected because Komodos are carrion feeders, meaning that the inside of their mouth is full of enough rotting flesh and bacteria to give Asmongold a run for his money. The infection begins to drain the animal's strength, and the Komodo is still watching. Another week passes. The infection has spread, and the flesh has begun to rot. And you best believe that ass lizard is still there watching like he's waiting for his meal to heat up in the microwave. Once the bleeding, disease-ridden animal becomes too exhausted to move on its own and collapses, the Komodo strolls over and eats it alive, shredding it into chunks if it's larger, or if it's small enough, swallowing it whole as it screams on the way down. Even for me, man, that's fucked.
Name an animal that starts with the letter F.
Fried chicken.
What is the longest sentence in the world? Life sentence?
Australia's scariest spider is hiding a deep secret. But what is it? Well, introducing the huntsman, native to the land down under, and the #1 cause of tourists absolutely shitting themselves on camera. And look, in defense of said tourists, I will be the first to admit, yeah, this looks scarier than a f***ing job application. Those gangly ass legs and the hair make him look like Slender Man's testicle. Now, as if having a negative charisma stat wasn't bad enough, I regret to inform you that the huntsman spider grows up to 30 f***ing centimeters in size, making it the largest spider on the planet by leg span and legally allowing Subway to market him as a foot long. Now, being the spider equivalent of a Ford F-150, you'd think he'd have the common decency to be slow, you know, tank build. Unfortunately, the huntsman is f***ing turbocharged. Now, it's usually at this point in the video that I would inform you that he is also highly venomous, because it's Australia. However, that's his big secret. The huntsman is a big sweetheart. You see, despite looking like an SCP, huntsmen are incredibly timid, and on the rare occasion they do bite, their venom is harmless. In fact, seeing one of these bad boys in your house is a blessing in disguise, because if you see a huntsman in your home, I guarantee you won't see any annoying ass flies or mosquitoes, because he's eaten them. You see, he understands he's big enough that he should be paying rent, and so he contributes to the household in pest control. I personally have had one of these bad boys as an 8-legged roommate, and I can tell you, they're pretty good company. Ooh. Except for the part where they cause car crashes. Yeah, you see, huntsmen like to hide in tight spaces and cracks, and they do it by flattening out their body to fit into the gap. Now, in the house, that usually means you'll just find them behind a painting, but when you're flying down the highway at 110k an hour and decide to flip down the sun visor because God is trying to flashbang you, yeah, they like to sleep in there and you've just dropped one into your lap. Now, whatever you do, don't panic or you're gonna crash the... Scientists just de-extincted a 12,000-year-old dog. Well, kinda. You see, a bioengineering company called Colossal has dedicated itself to doing what every single Jurassic Park film has told us is a bad idea. Bringing back extinct species. And recently, they made a breakthrough. They have managed to bring back the 12,000-year-old direwolf. You know those big-ass puppies from Game of Thrones that the Starks had? Yeah, those were actually a real-ass animal, alive during the late Ice Age. And the best way I can describe them to you is, basically a wolf on steroids. Yeah, buddy! These things were bigger, faster, and stronger, estimated to have the highest bite force out of any canine. And in a move that I'm sure has no implications, they have managed to bring these bad boys back to life. These two little guys are now 6 months old and have been living on a private plot of land with 24/7 veterinary care. However, they've only just been shown off to the public, with the company going so far as to get a photo op with George R.R. Martin holding one of these adorable little killing machines, showing that man will literally interact with an extinct species before he finishes that last f***ing book. There is, however, one small problem. This isn't technically a direwolf. You see, by merit of them being extinct, short of speccing into necromancy, you can't exactly bring them back. Which is where this guy comes in. You see, the grey wolf shares 99.5% of its genetic code with the direwolf. So, using CRISPR gene editing, they basically toss the grey wolf back into the spore creator, then using the code found in direwolf fossils as a build guide, juiced the out of it, boosting the size slider and putting some extra points into strength, as well as adjusting its head shape and teeth. All in all, they made a total of 20 edits to 14 genes, producing the closest thing we can get to a direwolf short of time travel. Which is cool as f***. I give it 5 years before a man-made horror beyond comprehension breaks out of that f***ing lab and we are all playing Resident Evil.